Hi, I'm Spencer Ziegler.
Hi, I'm Mellisa Smith, and welcome to Data Lit, a podcast for educators by educators. And today we are starting our 5th season. So we have a little trailer to kind of reintroduce ourselves to our listeners and get started for the 24-25 school year.
Yeah.
So Spencer, as we're getting ready for our new season, there are a lot of new things happening. One of them being that we have new theme music. So in case you guys are budding followers of our podcast, you may have noticed that our music changes. And so this season, we have been blessed to have new theme music from Alex Scott, who is a student at Ligon Middle School. And the theme music actually has a name.
Yep.
The student is way more talented than I am, called Dreamscapes. So you're going to be hearing that this season. So thank you to Alex.
Sounds fantastic. It's just neat to have Wake County students, contributing.
All right. So as we get started for this season, one of the things I thought about is what's some new data that you learned about since we last met a couple of months ago?
Yeah, so something that struck me over the summer was educational leadership. Their July issue was all about attendance. And they had a number of attendance data that kind of struck me. And something we've been talking about, so it wasn't shocking. But for instance, they cited a study from researcher Gabrielle Hayes. She mentioned that we're seeing double the amount of chronic absenteeism as compared to before the pandemic. Chronic absenteeism defined as more than 10% of all days enrolled being absent. So that's something that I'm just kind of sitting with and trying to wrap my head around, because attendance can be symptomatic of a myriad of causes.
Yeah.
So it's just, it just struck me.
Yeah.
Twice as much,
Okay. All right.
What about you, Mellisa?
All right. So I think you might enjoy this because you are more geekier than I am.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I learned that when we're thinking of data, that we as human beings, we create, capture, copy, consume 147 zettabytes of data in a year.
Zettabytes? What is
worldwide.
zettabyte?
Thank you for asking. I said, I hope Spencer asked because I did not know what that was.
Yeah.
All right. So like gigabytes and terabytes, it's a unit of measurement for digital storage or information.
Okay.
So for example, 1 zettabyte is equivalent to 1 trillion gigabytes. Now that word I did know, or 250 billion CDs worth of data.
Oh, that one just brought me back to like burning CDs, made you this mixtape. Yeah.
So in my head, trying to think of, I'm glad I found something that kind of put it in relevance. Because even when I saw the gigabyte, I was just like, I'm not sure. But 250 billion CDs worth of data, that is a lot of data that we are consuming and producing. And I was just like, wow, that took me back. Because then I'm thinking of storage, like, where are we storing all of this data, information, creating it? It's amazing. And that number is increasing, right?
Yeah. And that's, something that we've done throughout this podcast is talking about, best practices and what research suggests. And that's something that we're going to, lean into even more this season.
Yep.
And I think that really, just the idea that there's that much information being bombarded really, I think, negates the whole empty vessel model of schooling, because there's a lot being poured in that container. So you have to be very cognizant of what you're pouring and how you're pouring and those kind of things to make sure it's received, because there's a lot of competition.
Yeah. And to think that we are co-creators. I liked how when they talked about we too every day are creating data and adding to that space. So it's not a us problem. Every single human being, when we are taking pictures and snapping and sharing and making, we are adding to that. Ooh. So we are co-creators in that digital space as well. That is what brought me pause, because I was just like, it's not like, oh, that's other people doing it.
Yeah, and especially when you framed it as like CDs worth of data, I'm thinking about like, what is an artist's catalog? And that makes me wince thinking, what is my catalog that I am producing? And that's, a lot of this can go in the trash.
It's a lot. All right. So something else that I wondered about is there still a wondering about data or assessments that you have or might hope to explore as we begin another season?
My response to this kind of branched off of your first question.
Okay.
which, I was thinking about attendance, then my head went to engagement, as perhaps a way to confront not all the issues that might lead to attendance, but some perhaps. And that made me wonder just, okay, how does one collect valid and reliable engagement data? Because one, we talked about that with that qualitative episode we did a couple seasons back, surveys, focus groups, there's probably a few ways there. But just also engagement itself is kind of a tricky thing to measure, because what does it mean to be engaged? What should be the end goal, especially with something like education? The Summer Leadership Conference, one of the speakers talked about, learning is a little bit uncomfortable.
Yes.
So being fully engaged, does that capture? Well, there's also a good amount of discomfort. That zone of proximal development, you want people to be stretching. So you want to make sure when you're collecting engagement data that just good instruction where you're challenging kids, that's not diluting the data you're collecting.
Yeah.
So it got me thinking about what does it mean to collect valid and reliable engagement data.
I like how you said that, because that made me think of when we were at the last NC Ties conference. One of the main speakers talked about how this generation learns, right? And they don't see school as the be all and end all of where learning happens.
Yeah.
And so do we need to redefine engagement, because they engage with learning very differently from how we engaged? And so back to your first data point about attendance, they don't have to be in school to learn. And I think when he said that I'm still I'm still pondering that. It still bothers me. And that just speaks to my age, that school is not a place that they see as a place for learning. And so I wonder if that has anything to do with absenteeism rates or even engagement, right?
Yeah, because there could be more, quote unquote, engaging instruction out there just on YouTube or on the interwebs. But is it as effective instruction?
Yeah.
Is it accurate information? And so just, what do we do with engagement?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What are you pondering?
So, last season we talked a lot about AI, and I don't know if you've noticed, but like all of the latest magazines, all of the conferences that we've been attending, AI seems to be one of those topics that it's definitely not going away. It is definitely increasing in popularity. And so one of the things that I heard someone ask, and again, it's a question that has been staying in my mind, is what role can AI play with data analysis?
Yeah.
In our department, we do a lot of data analysis. And, wondering I have is, what would it look like to employ some of these AI tools in the work that we do? And then to that effect, what are the implications of using AI tools with data analysis? As, I was in a conversation with someone recently where they said, you kind of have to think about AI. When we use AI and we add to it, it is open source. So we are now, again, part of this co-creators. We are now adding to that space. And so thinking about that and thinking about, yes, AI can help us with data analysis. When we think of our privacy laws, data privacy laws, like what would we have to consider if we were to use AI in that space, right? Can they coexist? I know definitely we can't do the ostrich's head in the sand kind of thing and pretend as though, because folks are doing it. So, I want to explore what would that look like? What are some implications? And maybe is there an episode where we're talking about best practices to help folks who are thinking about this pathway? Right,
because on the spectrum from the ostrich pretending it doesn't exist on one end, and the other, we accidentally create Ultron, which then overthrows the world. How can you find that sweet spot?
Yes,
safe and effective. Yeah, I think that's worth pondering.
All right, so you want to tell our listeners about what's happening? What are some of the things that we have planned for this season?
Yeah, I'm excited for this season. So there's a few segments that we've kind of done in the past that we're going to keep doing with Data Bites, so talking to other Wake County educators about how they think of data, how they use data. We're going to start digging a little bit more into research that Wake County staff are conducting and giving them a platform to share that. so people can benefit from what they've learned. And in the fall, we're going to start thinking about school accountability data, how to gather and use that in a way that's going to benefit your schools, your students. And I should say we're kicking it all off with a pretty exciting guest. Who are we leading with, Mellisa?
Dr. Robert P. Taylor.
Yeah, there we go. I'm excited. Yeah, I was very nervous.
Yeah, but I'm excited to share that episode with our listeners, and hopefully they find it as interesting as we found it when we were speaking with him.
Yes, so that's coming. That's coming in 2 weeks, and we'll be dropping episodes every 2 weeks. We usually pause a little bit around the December break, but then we come back in early January, and that's
So tell a friend if you are a fan of ours. We're trying to reach as many listeners as possible. So tell your friends, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy what we have to offer. We always say that if you have questions, topics, things that you would like us to discuss, you can always reach us at www.wcpss.net/datalit. We have an email address too. Yes. datalit@wcpss.net. And so there are a myriad of ways to reach us. So feel free to always reach out to us because, again, we're doing this for you guys. So we want to make sure that we are as responsive as possible. So we are looking forward to a really exciting season 5. And until our first episode, see you soon.
Yep. Take care.
Check.
Yep, sounds good. Hi, I'm Spencer Ziegler.
Hi, I'm Mellisa Smith. Never mind.
You are? Yeah, you should feel good about that. You know what? Look yourself in the mirror every day. Say, I'm Mellisa Smith. No one can ever take that away from me.
I've got a brain fart. Look at you.
I might drop this at the end.
Oh, gosh. All right.
Okay.